to keep my eye on the commenter. How's everybody doing? I literally have all of my wires next to me, and then one of them that I could not find. So that was fun at the very end. Right, literally at 10:57. So that was interesting. Okay. Let me bring it up. There we go. Okay. Alrighty. Hey, Kristen. I do not know why I'm having a hard time being able to watch the comments come in. I wonder why that is. Oh, here it is, the chat. No? I'm messing around with this. Oh, I'm glad that you're looking forward to this. Now, how can I keep my phone from... My phone's above me so I can watch the comments. Yay, I see Kelsey's comment on LinkedIn. Yay. So just so you know, this is the first one. I have the content. I did some of this Global Entrepreneurship Week. Kelsey, did you need to give the streaming platform permission for it to come through? I'm wondering how that's working. How do I'm basically trying to make sure that my phone, I don't have to keep unlocking my phone every second that I want to read the YouTube comments. Okay. Hey, Carolyn. Okay. Why? Please keep my thing on. I'm trying to keep my YouTube on my phone so I can continue to look at that. Yay, Shay and Jeff are on too. I'm so excited. I really am. This tech is intimidating, right? Like if you're a business owner, like who is intimidated by like the technology piece of doing things? Like the content I'm good with, right? The teaching aspects I'm good with. What I'm trying to do right now, whatever the F this is, I am not. So I wonder why it says waiting. Who else is getting video? Because I'm looking on YouTube and it's telling me there's no video. It just says upcoming. Okay. Come on. I'm just trying to make sure I can look at the comments because this is part of it. Otherwise, what's the point? Let me make sure I'm muted though. Okay. Okay. It just came through for you. Okay, cool, Kelsey. Yeah. So the LinkedIn comments are on my screen, which is good. The YouTube comments, I don't know what's happening with that. Oh, I have to switch back and forth? Weird. No, that just lets me comment. So I know. Thank you for your patience. Read only. That's okay. I just want to read it. Okay. I don't know. I think LinkedIn is at least pulling them through on my screen. Okay. Yeah, or you can comment on YouTube, Kelsey, to see if it'll come through. And there's delay. That's okay. I'm okay with that. Okay. I just wanted to make this because this piece to me is super important, right? Like the whole point of a live stream versus like a traditional webinar type of thing is the fact that there's back and forth, there's conversation, there's questions, there's comments. I want to like highlight those things because that's why I decided to go this route. I mean, and I'll be honest, webinar software is, I think, even more complicated than this. So, that was part of it as well. Can't post messages. So that's okay. All right. Okay. All right. So, come on, computer. Mhm. Sorry, guys, if you can hear me, it's not wanting me to share my screen. But I was telling Kelsey earlier that I wasn't even planning necessarily to have slides. So just because I wanted it to be more organic and formal. So the technology, because for whatever reason, this is actually a newer computer than what I had. I had a 2011 MacBook that yes, 2011. You heard that right. That was correct. Yes, I can see the comments, Kristen, on my phone. But uh, yeah, so it looks like I'm not going to be able to use my slides, which is okay because I have an idea of what I was going to do. I already did a lot of this in Global Entrepreneurship Week. But I had a 2011 MacBook and it just was not going to cooperate. You can chalk it up to Mercury retrograde, just the fact that, 12 years is a long time for a computer to go. So luckily, Burton gave me a newer computer than that, but it still doesn't seem like it really wants to completely go along with streaming. So we'll see how this goes. I think that the video itself is fine, but it won't let me do anything else other than like it won't let me share my screen, which is fine. Let's see. So you kind of have to follow along, like just verbally. And I do have a workbook that I will drop in the comments. Okay. Yes, now I can. Yeah, I can even send them on the sides now of the stream, which is good. I don't know what changed for it, but like I said, this is all work in progress, guys. So I would like to ask you guys, again, I know that Kristen already said that she really needs, this as far as planning your content. So I'd like to just ask, what are your goals right now for 2023, and how are you going to define what success looks like? I would like to just kind of off there, because of course, content planning and marketing planning, of course, that's my jam. But like, I do want to acknowledge that there's often a lot of like strategic planning and overarching planning that has to kind of happen before we get to this point. And I had a 38-minute video that I recorded about that, about how I approach strategic planning that, again, due to my computer dying last week, it didn't get posted in time for this workshop, but I will try to post it this week. It was a 4 gig video, and it was just a mess. My life has been a mess the last couple of weeks, so in a personal and a professional kind of way. But so I think that, again, goals to me are fine, but like, for example, I'll just use a couple of mine. Like, I want to up level my systems and work less hours. And the reason why that's important to me is I spent a lot of time in 2022 just feeling burned out. Like, I was just constantly working. I didn't know how to turn off. But when you say like, okay, up level your systems, like, what does the success look like for that? And so I had to really get granular with that. And for me, that meant like, okay, so I want projects to take 50% less time. I want I want to be able to automate or systematize enough things that I can shave at least 5 hours off of my work week, hopefully 10. I'd really like to get into a 30-hour work week if possible, which I know is possible. But when you are spending so much time reacting to everything, which is what I was doing, that makes that difficult. So to me, like, I actually had to get granular with the goal. And I think this is also important with content, right? Because, I think we all understand that, like, we need to create content. But what is like successful content going to look like for you? Like, what, and how is that going to like actually look for you? Like, when you're creating content that is, doing what it needs to do for your business and for yourself, because I do think that content is healing, at least for me. And now, granted, I know that I'm a writer, so maybe that just says, something about me. But telling people what like is helpful for them is honestly helps me in an emotional level as well. So I think about it in both ways. Like, what's that tangible level of success with my marketing content, and what's that emotional level? Tangible level, that's pretty standard, right? I don't necessarily think I need to give a lot of examples, but like, for different people's businesses, it is different. Trackers, like, is it people being, opting into your email list? If you're trying to do more leveraged type of offerings, is it more people trying to get on the phone with you or sliding into your DMs, or, like, is it, things like that, for people who are more working one-on-one? That's the tangible level of success, and that's what you want to be tracking as you go through the year. And it's really helpful to know that up front. I will tell you, last year, I was not tracking that like I should. I think I started to track that like back in like late September, I think. Yes. Yes, I know. Yeah. Like I said, I was reacting to everything. So I wasn't tracking anything, like, because I was, just reacting. So that's just, it is what it is. I'm learning from that, right? So that's something that I kind of wanted to be like, okay, so up front, what does this look like? How do I know that I'm on track? And then I'm going to go in again to that emotional level of like, what's the purpose of the content? Especially like, because I'm doing more on YouTube, there's something about, I think, video that helps people like really make those light bulb moments go off. That to me knows I'm on the right track on a deep emotional level. Like, oh my goodness, there was somebody who like private messaged me and like, you helped me think of things in this different way, and you made me realize this is the missing piece to what's going on. And, like, they were just really excited about my content. And again, I know that a lot of people think likes and comments are vanity metrics, but and sometimes I don't think it's not vanity. It's like validation, right? Like of if people are telling other people like, hey, you have to see Max's video on XYZ, like again, there's no direct like success metric to pin to that, but I kind of take all of that in and I actually like save it, to know of what's working, what's not working on an emotional level for people. Are people actually like responding and feeling like they, not just again are learning, right? That's a nice part of it. About you know is there some sort of like momentum or results, or are they are they shifting their thinking in a different way, things like that, that is something that is still important and still something that we should be thinking about when we're building content. So now I wouldn't be a workshop or me teaching something if I didn't talk about messaging. And I know a lot of folks, have probably looked at their, messaging and are confident with that. And I'm not telling you need to go back to the drawing board or scrap everything. Um, but there is something to be said about revisiting and looking at this and refining this, especially as we are going into the new year. So So I feel like it helps just to revisit, your purpose and get back to like what is important in your business. Like what are your values? What are your beliefs? What is your mission? What is your vision? What's that brand story? Have I updated it? Have I revisited it? Is it still clear? Do I still feel confident in that? Is my positioning and my value proposition, things like that do evolve, especially as we work more with our clients, we begin to understand this is how I'm different. And not just because, and it's not just internally, often it's our clients telling us, this is why I went with you. This is why I am excited to work with you. This is, a lot of times they will tell us these things. So, it's just, again, that's kind of why I pull some of those things when people do tell me that, is because it's helpful from like a validation and a marketing standpoint. So, so I know a lot of the folks that do follow me or that I am friends with or that who are watching this, you have something powerful to say. That's why you started a business. That's why you've been working at it. That's why you've been, working with clients and helping them transform their, their lives, their business, their health, their relationships. You have something to say. And I come back to these questions again and again because again, our understanding of them changes and evolves, but I just want to just ask, and you can, it's in the workbook, you can jot it down, you can write it in a comment, we can talk about it, but you know, what are you here to say? What is it that you would want to be known for? These are such powerful questions. Um, and from a storyteller perspective, is this what I want to be known for? Well, maybe it's not what I want to be known for. Maybe it's helping elevate other people's stories that would not have been told. Maybe it's giving people the permission to tell their stories, like, so it doesn't always have to be 100% about you. I'm not, it's not always the, about us, right? But I will say, and I'm going to probably do a YouTube video about this, but like starting internally doesn't get enough play because, when you start on that internal level, it's not about being selfish. It's about just listening to your purpose and, and filtering out the noise of what everyone else is doing and saying and just, just kind of listening to your own truth, which I know woo woo is hell, but stick with me, please. Okay, if you don't want to put it in the chat, that's totally fine. You just want to jot it down. I'm going to put it in the chat, though, in case anyone wants to respond to it. So it's interesting because I can't share my screen, but I can flip back to it. So I'm sorry. I'll try to actually put the, maybe it'll let me. Kristen, I'm gonna highlight yours. Wants to be known as for being fun and educational. The reason why I highlighted your comment is because, so I don't know how familiar you are with Catcall magazine, but I write for them, and I had to tell them about your hand puppets. It's the vulva and the clitoris ones. Like, I thought that was amazing. And we were all like, yes, we all need like to normalize some of these, our own anatomies, right? Like that is, I think, something that I've gravitated towards, especially as somebody who's non-binary, and I sometimes have my own baggage when it comes to my anatomy and my body and that kind of aspect of my life and my sexual aspect of my life. So when you make it fun and you center the education piece, again, I think there's also a lot of good, healthy normalization to that. Even Lauren Conaway, if anyone knows her, she's the founder of Innovator KC. She talks about what do you do to relax? And then, Kristen at one point was like, blah, blah, blah. Well, and I also masturbate. And people were like pearl clutching, like, you just let her say that? I'm like, yeah, like it's the truth, is it not? Oh, goodness. I hope this doesn't get me kicked off of YouTube. Unfortunately, we have to worry about that kind of thing because of this very issue, right? Unfortunately. I think for me, I just want to be known, I think, as the person who never gave up on being authentic and being themselves and just doing what was right despite what popular opinion and culture and patriarchy and kyriarchy and all of these things have told us to act and behave and to say, censorship does suck. Like I heard that people are getting demonetized for literally like not even being like overtly sexual, but literally just cursing in the first 60 seconds of a video on YouTube. I've heard just lots of crazy things like that. So I don't know what's going on with that. But it's hard to navigate these things as content creators, right? And I think that definitely poses its own special consideration for you when you're planning your content, right, Kristen? You actually kind of have to see what you can slide past then, like the algorithms and things like that. I honestly think that might be one of the reasons why maybe TikTok is doing better than other platforms, is because it's not US based. And I don't think that it has some of that baggage involved. I can't speak to, how they censor people. I haven't put a lot on TikTok yet, but that's just something that I've thought about. I'm like, that is an interesting, especially when your whole business is involved around that, so yeah, their own rules on any platform. Yeah, I mean, true. Okay. So I said to start internally because I do think that is super important. And like I said, it helps us to really center what we're here to do instead of listening to everybody else. But we're not creating our content in a vacuum, right? Like it is meant to be engaged with. It's meant to be, you know, read, viewed, listened to, responded to. So we do really have to think about our audience and understand them as well. So that is not something that we get to neglect. We do get to think through those things. And what's interesting about content, because content is, inherently about helping like nurture people and educate people in an engaging, entertaining way. But often what happens is, there is like an iceberg with content. And what people are searching and wanting to know is typically up here. It's what's above the surface. But what's actually going on for them, or what's the deeper issue, is often down here, right? It's underneath. But you kind of have to make content that help people go deeper. And I think that's why things like podcasts and videos are super helpful. I'm not telling you have to do those, to be clear, but I'm just saying, like, this is, I think, why they are often getting a lot more traction than other formats. And I just knocked over my microphone. Anyway. So those deeper levels, to me, is the way I think about it is, what are the symptoms of the deeper issue? Like, what is frustrating them? Again, what is it? Because we do need to call that out, and we do need to think about that. What's the deeper problem below that? What are the beliefs that they're having that are driving what their current actions are? What have they already tried before? Again, this is going to be up here. That piece is going to be up here. But the beliefs and their motivation, and maybe even the barriers that they're facing with these things, are going to be below the surface. And I like to think of the things that kind of help bridge the gap between the two are like the aspirations. Like, what are they aspiring to feel, to be, to do, to experience? Because that's what's going to help them get from here to the above the surface to realize, okay, here's the deeper thing. What's that stake for them? So that, these are all helpful pieces to that. Well, let's talk about that. I'd like to kind of workshop that, because sometimes, like I said, as we're developing content, we're not always, we're thinking about our audience. I'm not saying we're just making content selfishly, but like sometimes it's helpful to have like a kind of framework in place to think through these aspects. I don't necessarily want to keep picking on Kristen. So if anyone else wants to kind of put something out there, we can kind of workshop through it, and see how we can help bridge that gap for your, audience and your potential clients. And if not, I'm not a teacher. I've never been a teacher. I've been a corporate trainer, which is very different, but I've never been a teacher. But I'm feeling some teacher vibes, and I might call on somebody. So okay. All right. I'll at least take a drink. So I guess I'm going to try to use an example. I like to at least help, like, this is the point of this. This is going to try to work somebody through some of this. But I don't know if Carolyn is still on, but I'm going to hopefully use, I'm going to use DE&I as an example, because I think it's, there's definitely a lot of different moving pieces to that. So I think symptoms, for this would be like the HR, the training and development team are noticing maybe people aren't being retained, or there's just a lack of morale or engagement. This is like again, because this is more of a B2B I could use a B2C if people want something more to consumer, but these are the symptoms of something like bigger. And maybe, they, somebody from above is talking about like DE&I, but they're not really aware of like what the cultural changes need to be, right? Because there's lots of things people want to do to try to like fix their DE&I and B problem, but very rarely are they big cultural shifts that need to happen. Maybe some of the deeper problem is a lack of psychological safety in the cultural organization, which would really help everybody, not just people of marginalized groups. Often beliefs is this is, that would be driving some of that would be, this is the way we've always done it. There's an idea, especially from dominant groups, that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And it's very rich to hear that from people of like, white cis het men. Yeah, it's not broken for you. Of course it's not, but there is that prevailing of like, maybe there's, oh, I won't be able to get buy-in from senior leadership. Maybe they've tried to bringing somebody in before, or maybe they've tried doing some workshops, but it just, nothing really took, or anything changes were just kind of really like very surface level. So there's definitely different barriers to think through with that. So there's a lot of different aspects you can look at. And again, this is all great things you can build content off of, right? It just addressing each of some of these pieces there. Aspirationally, diversity inherently makes better organizations, right? Like people should be able to, bring their full selves to work without worrying about like having to navigate a bunch of landmines throughout their, employment experience. They should be able to bring their lived experiences and actually feel like they're actually being taken into account and actually being implemented through the organization, that that their voices are being heard. So this is just an example of some of that. So I definitely think that, again, this is a great piece to the content planning puzzle, because sometimes, like I said, those are topics, right? We haven't even gotten into topics yet, but that can be right. Like you can just build just one like whole content series based upon that. Another aspect to this is, and this is not a concept you'll often hear from people in marketing, but this is common in the medical field, but it's the concept of informed consent. And I'm sure Kristen knows lots and lots and probably has a lot of good content on consent. But informed consent is a key, like the first word of that. And informed consent is basically helping give people the information they need to make the best decision for themselves. That is the concept. Like before you go into a surgery, they tell you, what's the recovery like? What are the complications? What are the risks? What are the risks? What is, all these different pieces. What is everything going to look like? And then you decide if that's what you want to do. And that's the best decision for you. I really don't think that marketing or business should be any different. There's often people will be kind of like, well, or they'll not put their price on their website, or, other different things like that. And not to say you have to, there's certain things you have to be more, ethical with informed consent, but thinking through, in putting this into your content, what do people need to know before working with you? What investment are they going to need to make? I mean, you don't have to lead with that, because sometimes they have to, they have to believe something about themselves, or believe something about their business, believe that they're capable, like there's some emotional changes that may need to happen, but you do need to be really clear of like, this is the investment that you're making, both in your time, in your energy, in money. Like this is what it looks like. And also I think that even in like an energetic way, we'll go into this more as I'm going to lead into like talking about your offers, but this is a prime example. This is how I teach, right? If this is something you should know before working with me, right? Like if we're going to be a good match. And again, this is where I think like some of the podcast and the audio and the video come into it, because I don't feel like blogs give me a good sense. I mean, from a consumer standpoint, from like a person standpoint, I don't feel like they give me a good sense of if someone's going to be a good fit for me or not. Just reading. Again, that's my personal, like, as somebody who does read a lot of blogs and listens to podcasts and watches YouTube, like, I don't feel like I know that person very well. So that's another piece of that as well, of informed consent, is like, are we going to be a good fit? So, and again, we haven't even gotten into the content yet, because I think another piece, and this is something I did put in the workbook if you downloaded that, but what offerings are you going to promote and when? I think you actually have to start there before you really go into the content. And I'm going to shout out Rachel Cook, who's one of my first business mentors, that really helped me to think through that piece. And I think that is the missing piece. And when I say your offerings, I know that sounds really salesy. I'm actually not meaning just your paid offers. I'm not. It can, right? If you have if you work privately one-on-one with people, if you have like a more leveraged offering, that's like a group type of offering, group coaching, a course, I'm definitely including that as well. But I'm also meaning things that are free. Like your opt-in, like your downloadable, like if you have a challenge that you do with people, if you have a workshop that you do with people, like that is an offering. And you definitely, and the reason why I put that in the workbook is starting there, you can then work backwards with your content. Because again, what do people need to know about your opt-in, about your challenge, about your course, about your workshop, about working with you privately one-on-one? Again, going back to the informed consent, to get to the point where they'd be ready. So you can work backwards. And I think that actually works better, because then it all is more cohesive. And to me, it takes you less time because everything is flowing together. And from from this, wanting to be more empathetic and, more connection based, it also kind of, again, it helps to lead seamlessly there. You don't feel salesy when you're going, hey, I did this workshop. This is my teaching style. This is my process. This is how I do things. And if you want to know more, if you want to get further, you want individualized help, this is how you would do it. It's seamless. And again, it's less manipulative, because here's the information you need to make a decision. Here's the next steps if you choose to go that route. That feels a lot better for me. And I think that for other people, especially for other service-based businesses and and entrepreneurs who are more, wanting to be that, that mission-driven, that impact-driven, wanting to help be more transformational for people, I just think it makes more sense that way. Again, it's helping people in that journey and just giving them the information they need. And I think that's super important. I haven't seen a whole lot of comments. Is everyone following? Is there any questions? I didn't want to be just somebody talking at a screen the whole time. And I think that's a good midpoint. I don't actually know. It's probably closer to ending in the midpoint. Is anyone also looking at the slides? Because I did put them in there just so people can have a visual, because I know that looking at me the whole time is not what I was expecting. I was expecting us to go back and forth between slides and me. So if you're looking at the Canva, that's totally fine as well. Okay. Good question. I'm going to put it up. We're going to get to some of the more implementation stuff later. But Cost-effective sites. So I think that like Buffer is probably a good like more kind of affordable, especially it's just you. I don't know, do you, if you have a team or not, but that's one of my clients uses Buffer, and I think it's pretty good. I at the moment do not have a scheduling software, and I will tell you why. Kelsey is scheduled as uh, suggesting Loomly, but I'll tell you why. So I don't have one right now because I actually do all of my scheduling directly into the Meta Business Suite. And I know other people who, use other platforms, they might not want to do that. And I'm kind of looking at doing more scheduling on LinkedIn. But when I did have one, I it's not cost effective as much as others, but I used Meet Edgar. And the reason why I did that is because it had like an evergreen feature. It was one of the first ones that was like that. An evergreen meaning like I had a content library, and so to fill in gaps, I would just fill in some of those evergreen posts because um, there's not a lot of life in one social media post, right? Like, on Instagram, let's say, you got like 48 hours, maybe 72 at the most on one post. And it just felt like a lot of labor and effort and energy to be putting into something that I'm not getting enough like time for people to even see it, much less interact with it. So and that was like 50 a month. I don't know if it's changed, but I personally, and again, I can't make a decision for you, but I was willing to pay a little more for something where I felt like I am saving myself more time. Because if I put enough in the library and up front, I'm not constantly having to like create new content all the time. And so I was saving myself time. But again, that was a decision that I decided to make. Um, and I do think if you are doing things through Canva, if you're already paying for Canva, you might want to look into their content scheduling because they have a content planner on there as well. That's something that I'm actually probably going to look into because I've been using Canva for like everything right now. So it's like, why not try it? In fact, if you did download the workbook, I'll tell you this just for funsies, but Canva has a new feature called Canva Docs. And that's what I designed the workbook in. And the appeal to it was you create a document and then we will generate your presentation for you. And I'm like, well, and I'm like, well, if I'm going to do like I'm the kind of person that I experiment because of like if I want to suggest something to like a client or somebody, I want to have done it, myself a couple of times. And I'll be honest, I was not impressed. Like the workbook was fine, but because it was all one document, there was no page breaks like there would have been with a normal Canva design. And then when I transported it into like a presentation, kind of looked ugly. It just was not a good presentation. So I'm like, yeah, you need to work on this feature before you rolled it out to people. So just so you know, if you are looking at Canva, like there's certain things, it's like, yeah, it's not there yet. It might be one day, but it's not yet. So I'll definitely do more workbooks the more conventional way, at least for now. So if your workbook looked kind of like iffy, it's kind of why I was experimenting and lesson learned. If you're also looking at some content scheduling, sometimes you can go on AppSumo and some of those more expensive, like monthly schedulers will be like a one-time $50 purchase. So again, you're just paying for it once. I've did that before. I did that with Social Bee, and there's a couple others that I've done, again, to experiment with to see if it's something that I want to keep using or use for clients. So that's another option, I think, if you're looking at that kind of thing. But again, we'll get more into the implementation side. So I feel like, again, as we're going and planning out our content, I think a lot of people sometimes worry, and I want to do a whole video on this, of like, what if I give too much away? What if I give too much away? I don't think that there's such a thing. I've talked about that on LinkedIn, but I think that we really have to think about what is the purpose of our content. The purpose of our content is to build connection and to give folks momentum towards their desired result. You want them to get results from your content. Um, you know, I'm going to use Kelsey as an example. Like I mean, it was a paid workshop, but her workshop gave so many people so much momentum towards that goal of I can do grants, I can do this, I can find funding for my business or my nonprofit. Like this is something that's doable for me, and that kind of momentum is what turns people into clients. That momentum, that means that you're damn good at what you do. And if you're on this live stream, I know that about you because I know most of you personally. But I think that's okay. Like they're not going to get the same results that they would if they worked directly with you. And a lot of times people know that. Sometimes people want that extra support, or they know they may not have the time to do it though, or you're going to take less time than they would to do the same thing. That sometimes we just kind of weigh some of those investments to ourselves. I'm like, is this worth investing in? Is this a time? Like, do I have the time for this? And sometimes you have to outsource it, and that's okay. It's not that you couldn't do it yourself. It's just you realize that that's something that is better given to somebody else. And I'll say this: people who don't buy from you, they're just as valid. Some people are not in the same position to make an investment, and those people still will refer you people. They're still going to tag you in the Facebook posts or the LinkedIn posts about people asking for such and such service. Just because someone doesn't buy directly from you does not mean that they're not valuable. Okay, they're still for one, they're still a human being. They still deserve all of the good things in the world, and from like a purely like meditational woo-woo standpoint. But like again, even in a practical level, they're still helpful for you. They're still helping you grow. And one of my biggest brand values is called business karma. And for me, that just means the more that I give to others and help others succeed, the more that will come back to me. And you don't necessarily have to believe it because it's just something that is observationally true. So, but that is a brand value for me, is how can I do that? And again, you don't have to have that as a brand value, but that is the purpose of content, is to do that and to create people who create something that people will continue to look on and be able to get some benefit from. Okay. We are going to switch gears into more of the implementation. I'd like to ask y'all, what offerings are you looking to promote? It doesn't have to be all year. In fact, if you do have the workbook, which is fine if you don't. But if you do, you'll notice I only put it out just the first 6 months of the year. I know I said plan your content for 2023. But I don't know about other people, but it is hard to plan everything like 12 months out. Things will happen. You will get sick. You'll have this, you'll have that. So I'm like, let's do 6 months, because I also think that you can rinse and repeat. I think like you don't have to reinvent the wheel every month of the year. That would be ridiculous. Thank you so much for joining. Yeah, catch the replay. I appreciate it. Sorry, I want to show what other people are seeing. This is on LinkedIn. But yeah, I also think like if you have a one-on-one offering, you can promote it 2, 3, maybe even 4 times. Same with like your opt-in. Like again, that's why I think that that's why I even said free and paid offerings when we were talking about what we want to promote, because it helps people also get like catch their breath. I don't know if anyone's on some of these email lists, but there's people who finish one launch and like the next day they're promoting something else. They're not even giving people a full week to catch their dang breath. It's honestly ridiculous to me. But I feel like it's important to give people rest, And again, not that you can't promote anything ever, or you shouldn't be promoting anything, but like, again, like give people that kind of break in between of like, if you're going to do this, like maybe you're doing a free workshop next month, or maybe this time you're going to promote like a podcast that you are on, or something, or whatever that, whatever that would look like, so that you're not constantly bombarding people with like promotional stuff. And again, that's why I think it leading into the sale, and then, or leading into the offer, and then, again, kind of like, to me, it's almost like a wave, right? We're leading in, and then we're falling down, and there's a resolution, and that's kind of like a narrative arc, so to speak. So it definitely gives people that kind of a breathing room. So, and then, from there, like, do you know of anything that would naturally lead into that offer? Is there like a piece of that offer that maybe can stand alone as a workshop or a handout or an opt-in? If there's a course, could the first module maybe be like a challenge to lead into it? And then from there, what kind of content will build on itself, to help folks, have that momentum and have that quick win towards that larger goal or transformation. Is there a part of it that, maybe can stand alone as its own workshop? I think those are different things to think about, again, as we plan the content. And then one thing I talked about in Global Entrepreneurship Week, and this actually got a lot of people like responding, was, and again, we're in the beginning of the year, audit your existing content, like take an inventory of all the things you've already created. Because I will tell you, you have more than you think you do. And it doesn't just mean like your content, like your videos, or your podcasts, like, I mean, that stuff is pretty intuitive for that. But is there times you've been in the media? Is there some old opt-ins that maybe you don't use on your website anymore? I'll tell you what, I found so many when I was transferring computers. I'm like, wow, I did that, and I did that, and I did that. Like, why am I not using some of these things? So, even your own website copy could be social posts, right? If you have, sometimes I see questions in the Facebook groups. Like I saw one in Innovator KC, and then I'm like, and I wrote a really long response. It was about strategic planning. And I'm like, wow, I can make this into a video because of how long it was, and just how, sometimes it helps to see, and there's some visual aspects that would have been helpful for that post. So sometimes it's like things like, have you responded in a group? Use that, because otherwise it's not no one will, it'll move on and no one will see it. The workshop I did for GEW, like I said, I took some pieces from that. In fact, because of just the nature of it, this slide is lifted directly from that content strategy workshop. I just did that on purpose because I was like, why not? Like, if I'm auditing my own content and, like, again, trying to continue to use some of these things, it's okay. It's, a lot of people are like, well, what if people have already seen it? So do they remember seeing it? Probably not. It's a different especially if it's in a different format. Although I'll tell you what, you don't even have to necessarily change anything about it all of the time. You may want to change the photo if it's like a social media post, just for your, feed's sake or things like that. But people are not paying as much attention to you as you think they are. They're just not. And their attention spans are not as high as you think they are either, so, definitely don't worry about like that kind of aspect. And I'll tell you, sometimes people see something and they need to see it again because they weren't in the right place and emotional, mental level to like really get the information. Again, this is very woo-woo of me, but people see the things they need to when they need to. And they'll remember them, and then sometimes they were not in that space, be able to really receive it and act upon it. So again, we're going more into the the implementation piece. And so I know a lot of people are probably familiar with content batching. And I'll tell you, I have had the whole wrong idea about it at first. Like, again, as somebody who has done content for years, I used to think content batching was going from each piece, from the creating, editing, promoting, all through for each piece of content. And that is just a recipe for burnout in my experience. To really be able to batch and actually use your calendar, to help you with creating the content, you need to work on each piece separately. Like right now, like if you want to do some, we've been talking a lot about the ideation of the content. Just do that. Even with content creation, that sounds like it looks like what's one phase, but it's like, do all of your outlines for a month of content and then go back and draft it. Especially if it's like a content series, again, that's going to lead into something like into an opt-in or workshop or an offer. Having the outline and then drafting is if you do them both at the same time, I feel like you are using a lot of energy and a lot of time. And then again, then afterwards, you've created, then you can go back and have a whole block of just editing and formatting the content. And then of course, the repurposing afterwards of what are the ways that I can continue to distribute this content. So is this giving anybody any ideas either for content topics? Is there any formats that anyone would like to focus on? Is there any insights or questions that are coming through with this? Oh. Fun little thing I learned about YouTube's live stream just now as I was scrolling up was you can put a user in timeout on the live stream. I guess if they're saying some mean stuff, harmful, offensive stuff, you could put them in timeout. That kind of makes me laugh a little bit. That is awesome. That's awesome, Kelsey. I think thinking through that piece first, and that's again where I think sometimes we can go wrong, is we're making content, but to what end? To what purpose? And I do the same thing when I'm building offerings. I build or even an opt-in. I'll start with the landing page or the sales page. Because what am I promising people? Or what's it it's almost like a proto outline of the content. If I'm using that sales page or that landing page. Again, because to me that's giving people all the information, right? They need to make a decision on whether this is right for them. So if I'm laying it out for them in that way, and then I just go back and look at that as I'm building it. So I know that not everyone does it that way, but yeah, I am a Taurus. I am stubborn. I am ornery. And so I kind of do things the opposite way. But I will say I have a reason for it. I don't just do things differently just to do them differently. So I have a reason for it. So I'm hoping that that is helpful for you, Kelsey, and for other people as well. Okay. Is there anyone getting any ideas for different pieces of content? Because I'd love to, workshop that with you and see, if we can further develop it together, on the live. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be married to the idea, but it can help. Nice. Yeah. Okay, I'm glad. One of the last things I think we should just do while we're in this implementation mode, I would tell you to either put the content block on your calendar, even if it's just ideating, even if it's just implementing what we're talking about, even if it's just going through your notes or filling out the workbook, definitely do that. But if some ideas are already coming to mind, or you want to put this, like your list, like you say, Kristen, down, definitely go ahead and put that in your like your task management system, your Trello, your Asana, whatever that is for you. I did not time my slides, but I love that I came right at an hour, because that's kind of what I was hoping for, to give people the ability to ask other questions. We can chat. I'm almost done with this water, so everything timed out well. I actually did not go to Quick Trip for this water. This is how I gauge my water intake, and I knew that I was going to be talking a lot, so I was going to need to drink a lot. So yeah. Oh my gosh, y'all. The whole time it was freezing and not letting me share my screen. Are you kidding me right now? It's not letting me do it. It's now letting me do it. So, what should I do? Do you guys want to see kind of like my strategic planning? I can pull that up, or I can pull up more of my framework. Now that it's letting me share my screen, I'll let you guys decide. But yeah, I'm glad this was helpful for folks. I wish I had the chance to kind of promote this a bit more, but that is what it is. I had a phone, and I told you about the MacBook dying, but it's like not even a week before that, my phone was the battery was making it crash like every 10 minutes, so I had to do that first. I thought to myself, fun just fact for everybody, I'm like, should I do my first ever virtual live stream workshop during a Mercury retrograde? And then I was like, nothing bad has happened to me before in Mercury retrograde. And then like the universe was like, oh, really? Yeah. So then, yeah, my computer and my phone died within like a week of each other. So do not challenge that. And I also think that anytime you're doing anything uncomfortable, and this was uncomfortable for me, I know it didn't probably seem like it because I do like to teach, but putting myself out there in a workshop, and it's almost like things come up like, you sure you want to do this? Because we're going to make it really uncomfortable, really hard for you. Even if, again, from a purely technical, like, logistics standpoint, So I was like, you sure you want to do this? And I'm like, yeah. So I don't want to, like, pitch, because it's not really my point of this. But, again, speaking to what we just talked about, if this is something that you want to go deeper with, on an individual basis, this, that to me, it's just like, this is how I teach. This is my style. This is how I think through your content, and my clients' content. And if this is something that, it speaks to you, I am doing a few like VIP days, your narrative driven content strategy and your magical messaging, because I think that those pieces are so central to your marketing. In fact, let's see here real quick. Can I do it? Will it let me fully? Yeah, it will. So, just to give you all a visual real quick for anyone who's still on. This is just kind of how I conceptualize some of this. So the messaging and the positioning are here, the foundation. That's why we started there in the presentation. The content strategy, again, this is all part of your overarching strategy. This is like what you want to talk about, like what topics, what is your audience, what, like, again, thinking through the audience piece, thinking through like the offerings. And then of course, the the funnel is just more like, again, how are we educating people and giving people the information that they need? This is like the implementing the strategy piece. And then the assets to your content would be things like your landing pages, your workshops, your whatever you use for your opt-in. If you have a podcast and you have videos, those are content assets. And again, that kind of also leads into the nurture content, but some of these assets can be continue to be repeated, right? There's things that like you build once and you can kind of continue to use. Like if I make one workbook, I'll tell you, I don't redesign a whole new workbook every time. I just swap out some of the pictures and the text. Like the overall design is about the same. Same thing with like a landing page. Same thing with like with like email design, or like email sequences. Like an email sequence is a content asset because it keeps being used. You don't have to keep writing new emails, like for your welcome email sequence, for example. And then again, from there, your nurture content does have to kind of be a little more, just updated again, depending on what your offer is. Okay. So I just kind of wanted to show you. So to me, it's like we were here, and that's also what my VIP day is going to do. Like to me, after that, that's what helps save you the time. Like if you don't have these two pieces there, especially the messaging and positioning, that's what takes, I feel like, social media hours to write, and emails hours to write, and all of those pieces. That's what takes a lot of time. So yeah. So are there any other ending questions there that I can answer? Because otherwise I'll let you guys go. It is lunchtime. I'm actually, before I hopped on, I didn't want to be hungry, so I ate some veggies. So trying to have healthy snacks nearby. But yeah, if I don't see any questions or anything, thank you, Kelsey, though, because I am going to look into Loomly. I know of Loom, like the video recording software, but I've never heard of Loomly. So I'm definitely going to look into that after this live stream, because I'm also kind of in the market to see a scheduler. So. All right, folks. Yep. Thanks, Kristen. Thank you, everybody. I'm trying to hit end, and it's not letting me end my live stream now. Okay, will it let me hit end now? Come on. I'm literally just trying to hit the end button. Thanks, technology. This is what I get for sharing my screen. Now it's like, nope, you cannot click on any buttons. Come on. Okay, now it should let me.